I've lived 84 years and gone through many ups and downs. But never did I imagine that one simple cup of golden milk could bring my body back to life in just 4 days. My name is Robert, and for more than a decade, I lived with quiet but persistent pain. My knees, my hands, my back, they all ached constantly. I used to think, maybe this is just what getting old feels like. I tried everything: medication, physical therapy, hot and cold compresses, gentle exercises, even home remedies passed down through friends. Some brought temporary relief. Most left me disappointed. Then one evening, during a simple phone call with my niece, I decided to try something I had forgotten in the back of my kitchen cabinet for years: turmeric. It wasn't a miracle, it wasn't magic. But it helped me regain something I thought I had lost forever: the feeling of having control over my own body. Before I share the full details of what I did, I'd love to know a bit about you. How old are you, and where are you listening from? Please let me know in the comments. I truly enjoy reading your stories. And if you find this worth following, please subscribe to this channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Stories that help you live healthier, freer, and more peacefully each day. The pain that wouldn't let go. It all started out small. One day I felt a little discomfort in my left knee while going up the stairs. Just a small pinch. I didn't think much of it. But then it turned into a steady ache. Then the other knee started hurting. Then the hips. One morning I realized I couldn't even turn a key in the lock without wincing. My name is Robert, and at 84, I've lived with this pain for over 10 years. It wasn't loud pain, but it followed me everywhere. Every step had to be cautious. Every night was a struggle to sleep. And every morning I had to convince myself to get out of bed, even though part of me just wanted to lie still. I saw doctors. I took painkillers and anti-inflammatories. I tried therapy, massage, heat rubs. Sometimes it helped a little, but the relief never lasted. Some nights I lay awake just trying to find a position that didn't hurt. Some days I just sat and looked out the window because it was too painful to walk. I took pills that burned my stomach. I followed advice from magazines and friends. And then, one day, I looked in the mirror and asked myself, is this really me now? A man who once built his house with his own 2 hands, now trembling just to stand up from a chair. I started to believe this was my fate. That maybe getting old means losing strength, little by little, until there's nothing left to do but endure. But a small voice inside me hadn't given up. It whispered that maybe, just maybe, there was something I hadn't tried yet. Something gentler, something the body could accept without resistance. If you've ever felt the way I did, waking up every day with pain, afraid of every step, please comment with the number 1. I'd like to know how many of us have shared that same quiet struggle. And in that space between frustration and one last hope, a simple conversation opened a whole new path for me. A simple chat that changed everything. I still remember clearly. It was a cold Saturday afternoon. My knees were aching again after a restless night. I picked up the phone and called my niece, Emily. She lives in another state, but we talk several times a week. That day, I told her I couldn't walk for more than 20 minutes without my legs stiffening up. I wasn't asking for advice. I just needed someone to listen. At the end of the call, she asked, "Grandpa, have you ever tried turmeric?" I laughed. Turmeric? I remembered an old jar of it in my spice rack, bought years ago for an Indian curry. I had never thought of it as anything medicinal. She smiled and said, "Look into it. I'm not saying to stop what you're doing, but it might help more than you think." That night, I opened my laptop. I started with a few simple articles, then moved on to studies, interviews, research papers. They all talked about one thing: curcumin, the main compound in turmeric, known for its powerful anti-inflammatory properties. What caught my attention was that this wasn't just some trend. Even modern doctors were recognizing it. One physician said in an interview, "Turmeric is not a miracle cure, but it is one of the most complete natural anti-inflammatories we know today. Taken properly and consistently, it can offer real results for older adults dealing with chronic inflammation." That line stayed with me. Not a promise, not a cure-all, but something that could support the efforts I was already making. I got up, walked to my pantry, and found the old jar. There it was, bright yellow, with that familiar earthy smell. I placed it on the kitchen table and just looked at it. Not excited, not expectant. But I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Curiosity. At this age, curiosity might just be the beginning of hope. I wasn't aiming for miracles. I just wanted to feel a little better. And for the first time in a long time, I thought maybe I could. If you've ever heard of turmeric used for health or tried it in any way, comment with the number 2. I'd like to know how many of us have brushed past something simple that could have made a difference. And from that dusty old jar of turmeric, I began preparing a small recipe with ingredients I already had, one that would soon bring results no medication ever gave me. The turmeric recipe, simple steps that matter. After all that reading, I decided to keep things simple. I didn't want to chase after rare ingredients or complicated methods. So I chose the easiest recipe I could find, one that used what I already had at home. I call it my golden evening cup. Here's how I make it. 1 level teaspoon of turmeric powder. A small pinch of ground black pepper, very important. 1 cup of unsweetened plant-based milk. I used oat milk, but almond rice or even regular dairy milk will work. 1/2 teaspoon of coconut oil. You can substitute with extra virgin olive oil if needed. A small bit of freshly grated ginger, optional but I recommend it. I poured the milk into a small saucepan, added the turmeric, pepper, ginger, and oil. Then I stirred gently over low heat. Don't let it boil, just heat it until it steams softly. Keep stirring for about 5 minutes. When it's ready, I strain it through a fine mesh to remove any ginger or turmeric residue. Then I let it cool slightly and sip it slowly. The flavor is earthy, warm, with a hint of spice. Some might add honey, but I like it plain. One thing I quickly learned: never skip the black pepper. It contains piperine, a compound that boosts curcumin absorption by up to 20 times. Without it, your body can't absorb much of the turmeric's benefits. In the beginning, I made some mistakes. I added too much turmeric, thinking more would work better. But the taste became too strong, and more isn't always better. The key is consistency, not excess. I also tried microwaving it once. Didn't like it. Too uneven. Cooking it slowly on the stove felt calmer, like a small nightly ritual. So every night before bed, I replaced my usual tea or coffee with this golden cup. The warmth relaxed me. And knowing I was doing something good for myself gave me a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. If you've ever tried making turmeric milk, or if you have your own soothing evening habit, comment with the number 3. Sometimes the smallest habits bring the greatest comfort. And as I made this drink night after night, something inside me began to shift in ways I never expected. 4 days, small signs, big meaning. That first night I expected nothing. I made the drink slowly, carefully. Then I sat down in the quiet kitchen, took my cup in hand, and sipped it gently. It tasted like earth, like something ancient, like something familiar. But mostly it tasted like doubt. I didn't believe something so simple could change anything. Still, I went to sleep thinking, I have nothing to lose. The next morning I woke up with the same stiffness in my legs and hands. Nothing new. But when I stepped out to make breakfast, I noticed something different. The pain wasn't gone. but my movements felt lighter. I climbed the front step with less hesitation. It was subtle, but it was there. By the afternoon, as I walked toward the bedroom, my steps felt more secure, like something inside was beginning to settle. That night, as I stirred my second cup, I realized I wanted to see what the next day would bring. That little spark of hope felt more valuable than any medicine. The third day was clearer. I woke up with more energy. I didn't need to massage my fingers just to open the window. I walked out my front door and strolled a short distance down the hallway. The usual heaviness in my knees had eased. The stiffness wasn't gone, but it wasn't controlling me anymore. Most of all, the fear of movement was fading. That silent fear that settles in when every step might bring pain. In the afternoon, while organizing papers, I bent down without overthinking it. And that's when I realized I was doing small things I hadn't done in ages. The fourth day was emotional. I don't know if it was the turmeric, the buildup, or just the act of caring for myself. But that day, I felt like I was back in charge of my body. I moved with confidence. I made breakfast, took a walk in the yard, and called Emily to share how I felt. She listened, then laughed gently and said, "See, Grandpa, sometimes healing doesn't come from the pharmacy. It comes from your own kitchen." That night, I went to bed with a feeling I hadn't had in a very long time. Peace. Not because the pain was gone, but because I knew something had shifted. My body wasn't broken. It had just been waiting for the right signal. And that's when I realized, after all these years, my body still belongs to me. If you've ever experienced a moment like that, where something small gave you hope, please comment with the number 4. Sometimes it's those little moments that tell us we're finally heading in the right direction. And after those first 4 days, I understood something important. Healing doesn't always come fast, but it does come with patience, kindness, and consistency. What I learned, and what I want you to remember. After several nights of drinking turmeric milk, I came to realize something. This wasn't a miracle cure. It didn't fix everything overnight. But it gave me something far more valuable. Steady, honest progress. I didn't stop taking my medication. I didn't cancel therapy or ignore the doctor's advice. But every time I sat down to warm that golden cup, I felt like I was doing something that mattered. Something I chose for myself. I began to feel more in control again. Bit by bit, I noticed small improvements. Not dramatic, but enough to make a difference. And then it hit me. Turmeric helped, but what really changed me was the way I started caring for myself again. I began walking in the yard every morning, just 15 minutes. I adjusted my meals, less fried food, less sugar, more fruit and water. I started going to bed earlier without the TV on. And each night, without fail, I made my turmeric milk. It became a part of me. Not just the drink, but the act of showing up for myself. I learned that results don't come from one big action. They come from small, intentional steps repeated over time. The turmeric milk wasn't just easing inflammation. It was helping me reconnect with my body. If you have a small daily habit that helps you feel better, no matter how simple, comment with the number 5. Let's remind each other that every small step counts. I don't promise miracles. I'm simply telling you what worked for me. Because sometimes healing doesn't come in a pill or a hospital. It comes in quiet routines, in choosing to try again, and in trusting that your body can still listen if you speak to it with care. It's never too late to begin again. Sometimes we go through life battling illness, age, and new limitations. And slowly we begin to accept it. We adapt to the quiet pain. We grow used to losing strength. And then one day, we start believing that this is how it has to be. That getting old means there's nothing left to hope for. But I'm here at 84 to tell you that's not true. I didn't find healing in a pharmacy. I found it in an old jar of turmeric, in a phone call with my niece, in a cup of warm milk I made with my own hands. And most importantly, I found it in myself. The moment I chose to give my body another chance, something changed. You don't have to start with turmeric. Maybe for you, it's a new routine, a healthy breakfast, a walk outside, or simply a few minutes of quiet care. But remember this, it's never too late to feel better, never too late to feel alive again. If this story meant something to you, please subscribe to this channel. We're here to share real stories, gentle guidance, and remind you that you're not alone. You're still capable of healing, still worthy of care, and still able to move forward one small step at a time. Leave a comment if you'd like to share your own story. You never know, your words might be the hope someone else needs today. And if turmeric isn't your answer, let it be something else. But please don't stop searching for what makes you feel whole again. Your age doesn't define your future. Your effort does. So take that step. Try something new. Give your body the kindness it deserves. And trust that it will respond, maybe not instantly, but deeply, quietly, and consistently. Because healing is always possible.